Mike Slicker, Lighthouse Books, on YouTube and Periscope for the first time here. I wanted to show today a map. You know, if you know anything about me, you know that I love maps and the stories that they tell. With just a little bit of coaxing, they always tell an interesting story. And this one is one of those. This is a military map of South Florida, the peninsula south of Tampa. It was produced in 1856 to go along with the Second Seminole War, or excuse me, the Third Seminole War. There were three Seminole Wars, or three wars with the Seminole Indians here in Florida. The first was in 1816 and 18. Andrew Jackson came down and fairly well massacred a lot of the Native Americans, pushed them down a little bit further into Florida. And then the Second Seminole War is the one that we hear the most about. It's the one that included Osceola and some of the other famous, or more famous, Seminole names. And it lasted several years. It was instigated because Andrew Jackson then at the time was president, and he declared that all of the Indians east of the Mississippi should be removed to west of the Mississippi, primarily to the area that is today Oklahoma. The Seminoles were one of the first tribes to begin deportation, and they were also a tribe that resisted throughout. And while they did take away several thousand of the tribe, a number of them remained in South Florida. And in 1856, because of incursions of one kind or another, the Third Seminole War began and ended in 1857. The several of them together represent probably the longest war that the United States government ever conducted. And it cost, at the time, in the neighborhood of $40 million, and it cost numerous soldiers' lives. They never did get all of the Seminoles to move. Rather, they moved further into the Everglades, or some of them moved further into the Everglades and remained there until this day. This map is interesting from the standpoint of there's virtually nothing on here except for forts. There's a key that mentions that there are different kinds of roads. There is a wagon road, and there are blazed trails, and then there are paths. And that's the extent of the road system here in South Florida. Also, we have an undiscovered area. We have a large Everglades, big prairie, and numerous lakes throughout. It's a great map, and I love the story that it tells. Originally, let's put this down. Originally, it was folded up for use in the field. In fact, it was a map that was used for military purposes, and so, of course, it had to be folded so that you could get it into a knapsack or what have you. This particular copy of the map was inscribed by J.C., that is Joseph Christmas Ives, who was the map maker. And he inscribed it to William Hayes, who was part of the artillery unit at this particular time. Interestingly enough, this map was done under the direction of Jefferson Davis, who became President of the Confederate States. And Joseph Christmas Ives was from New York, and he ultimately became on the headquarters staff of the Confederate Army there in Richmond. In contrast, Major William Hayes of the artillery unit was born in Richmond and became a well-known general in the Union Army during the Civil War. So there's sort of an interesting story there as well. All maps show or tell us interesting stories, and I hope that you'll be able to get by Lighthouse Books sometime soon. We'd love to show you some of our other Florida maps and tell their stories as well.